Welcome to the What's Your Deal podcast, where we discuss business acquisitions, investments, management, and exit strategies. I'm your host, Matt Euler. Let's dive in. Welcome back to another episode of What's Your Deal. I am happy to be joined by a repeat guest, Dana DeVito. Dana is a well-respected coach and consultant for businesses working through Elite Performance Associates. He's worked with various industries, including oil and gas, food service, real estate, fitness, and medical services. He has over 15 years of business ownership and leadership expertise, and he helps executives and business owners gain clarity of vision and establish effective strategies, define their culture, and increase both profits and growth. The reason I asked Dana back is because not only have I heard from some of his clients how effective he is in their business, but I also really want to focus on this whole idea of business owners becoming the bottleneck in their business. It's such a common problem. I've been there. I oftentimes find myself there again. And so I'm looking forward to this episode with Dana. Dana, thank you for joining us again.
Yeah, my pleasure. It's been great to be back.
I appreciate that. So one of the things as we talk about business owners becoming a bottleneck, how do you see that play out with your clients? I mean, what does that look like in the real world?
Yeah, it's both an easy and a simple question to answer, but there's such complexity associated with it. And it's something that I had to grow through in the last couple decades myself. So it's so interesting to walk through those doors. But what it boils down to is many times ownership stems from being really good at a position or a role, a job that you do, going out and buying or opening or starting your own business and taking that same technical skill set and then trying to apply it as a role of owner. And so you're stuck in this cycle of wanting to do producible or have producibles at the end of the day, when really your heart is and soul needs to be on guiding the business and the personnel that are working for you. So you keep getting drawn back to what you did great. Mm-hmm. And stuck in that cycle and never releasing the reins to the teams around you.
Well, I know for me, I have found myself, and still do at times, because like you alluded to, I'm a technician of sorts, right? I've done lots of different things. And I like to do lots of different things. But for me, I find that the real bottleneck becomes when I'm working too much in the business and not enough on the business. Yep. And so is that the dynamic that you see where an owner becomes the bottleneck?
Yeah, and a lot of it is unintentional because they don't know how to step away. You know, what is it that they should give away? What can they hold on to? And there's not a lot of clarity or certainty in that. And so one of the things that I had to come up with years ago is what I term the acceptable level of imperfection. Because for me, I'm a bit of a perfectionist. You know,
Welcome to the club.
Yeah, right. I appreciate that. And so the challenge that I get is as soon as I walked away from whatever role I was playing in my business, it was going to be less than. And it's no offense to my team or the staff that I had hired, because I had hired extraordinary people. They just do it differently. And that's okay, as long as the results are matching or meeting my expectations. And so I had to start to definitively come up with an idea of what am I okay with not being Dana's way. So I had to get out of it so I could step away from being in my business and start to be, working on my business. And so, yeah, it's a fundamental principle I totally agree with.
Well, it's a great point. I know in my first business, I started it by myself, right? Yeah. So I was the one providing the service. And then as I started to hire more people, there became a time where I had to let go of the idea that the quality was going to be just exceptional. Yeah. Now, granted, my objective was to provide exceptional service.
Yep.
But it's different when you have other people trying, and they're bringing their view to it. Yeah.
I'm curious, as you're starting to process through that, and I know it was a few years ago, so bear with me. Was there a specific circumstance that kind of gave you that epiphany when you walked through that door and it didn't meet your standard or expectation? Was there something that really shined that light on it?
Well, it's a great question. So my process became that, again, when I was providing all of the service, I had complete control. Once I was not the one providing all of the service, I did not. And so if the quality was a little bit different, I drove myself a little bit nuts and my staff by micromanaging.
Yeah, for sure.
And that didn't work either for very long, right? I mean, I got more and more tired. They got more and more frustrated. And it became there was definitely a time where there was a shift where I had to let go of some of that control and focus on us still providing an exceptional service, but not the service that only I could provide.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
You may mention a word, micromanagement, and I think it's such an interesting thing because I think it gets a bad rap. And we as business owners have to recognize that there is a time and a place for micromanagement to exist. And it's in any stage of delegation as you're introducing an individual to a new role or a new standard or a new procedure, you need to micromanage it. It's one of the reasons our education system operates in the way it does from preschool all the way up to graduate school. It starts with really small bits of information and tasks and roles, and the teachers tend to be highly engaged in that. Same thing with as an owner or a leader within any organization. You need to be tightly engaged with those individuals to start to wean them away from you as that source of knowledge and expertise, but you start there. And so you need to micromanage to begin with. You just have to do it in very fixed amount of times with very precise goals at the end of it. And so I think one of the things that we, this dichotomy is in ownership that we roll with is we either, to your point, and I did the same thing, or I sometimes do the same thing, is hold too tightly, but then we flex to the other side of the spectrum, which is I give too much freedom, right? And there's this huge swing or pendulum swing, as it were, on the results and the participation of our team. And so I think it's really important for us to understand that micromanagement's a crucial component, but it's for term only. It's only in a specific time frame and with intention that we should be doing it, but it's necessary.
Well, that's a great point because so when you're using the term micromanage, which I fully understand, there's an element where that becomes training, right?
That's right.
And so as I pull that apart myself, the training is one thing. The micromanaging is how I make sure my client or customer or whoever still gets the service they intended, right? Because if I just train and let them go,
that's exactly right.
Who knows what the outcome is going to be for the customer. So is that the distinction that you would have regarding micromanaging and training, or?
Well, I think that's the idea of micromanagement is always a component of training. I mean, you're vetting the results of your team or staff or the relationship that you built with your client by that engagement, right? And at some point, for you to scale and to grow, you're going to need to step away from that, right? And give room and give space and give others the opportunity to be accountable to that and to process with it. And that's the iteration that you're going to be as an owner or a leader is where do I start? What's that growth and development? And then when am I able to extricate myself? And I would encourage everybody to have some clarity in that. Write it down. It's amazing what it does when we put pen to paper and start to identify with specificity what our goals are, what our strategies to achieve that goal, and then what tactics are we implementing to get there, including training, managing the relationship, and then stepping away from it.
That's great. Yeah, I heard a very successful business person recently say that he could outwork anybody on his team, but he couldn't outwork everybody.
That's right. That's
and
a great way to put it.
It's a phenomenal distinction because I very much have felt the same. I've got a lot of horsepower and I work a lot.
Yeah.
But I can't outwork everybody. And that's what's helped me to be able to delegate more and to let go, using your term, so that I'm not the bottleneck.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Because otherwise the business can only grow so much.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting though. We have to reflect on this idea of the emotional reward we get by being the driver of success or helping our team members when we see them struggle or fail. I always say it's like putting on tights and a cape. I want to go in and save the day and just prove in part, there's a self-serving aspect of proving my worth, right? I know the answer. I got you. I'll help you out. And so that it's a little bit of a dopamine hit when we go, I can solve this problem. I can save this day. And so we got to be cautious of that as well as that's not our motivator. It can't be our permanent motivator within our business is to be the savior. And so we've got to give freedom. We've got to expect struggle. We've got to expect, I hesitate to use the word failure. I think it's misused, but we've got to expect that there's going to be trouble and turmoil that we're going to work through. And that's going to be okay, which is why I say we've got to know with clarity what our acceptable level of imperfection is. Because if we lose all our clients, well, that's unacceptable.
Right.
If I lose a client, that's hard and it hurts, but that might be okay. I might be okay with that if certain things come out of it that I'm willing to accept or that I'm driving towards, right?
Well, it's funny. One of the things I always appreciate about our conversations is the opportunities to have further conversations.
Yeah. That's right. I do too as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And so one of the things you brought up, which is just like super deep, but the whole idea that there's a part of us that wants to be the man or woman in the cape with the, in the tights with the cape.
Yep.
And how much of a driving force that can be that can keep us stuck where we don't want to be.
Oh, yeah.
And it takes some soul searching and some willingness to take baby steps out of that. But it's such a great point that leaders are oftentimes rewarded for being exceptional leaders, and that can leave them right in the seat that they can leave them as the bottleneck.
Yeah. And I can't tell you how many times I have found myself doing that. And so it's a great thing because I can reflect as I go into my clients' businesses. Like I can see all the bumps and bruises that I've experienced over the years because of my own poor choices and decisions. And reflecting back and say, okay, this is I love saving the day with my kids, with my spouse, with my businesses. I love being that guy because then people are cheering and clapping and yeah, it's great. And then you get a call at 2:00 in the morning. And then you get a call the next day at 5 o'clock in the morning, and then 10 o'clock, and it's like over and over again. It just becomes this. I'm creating my own prison that becomes overbearing and overwhelming, and yet I can't give it up. And I was in that state. I put myself there, and that's problematic. Not only was I the bottleneck, but I was really the source of my own pain, my own frustrations, my own just burdens. And that's a hard spot to be in because you can't. It's really difficult to find your way out alone.
Well, and you alluded to the next question that I was going to ask, which is, so what's the problem, right? I mean, if somebody's the bottleneck, they can just remain a bottleneck, and what's the big deal? But I think you alluded to it, and I certainly felt it. My first business, the one that I started, I was absolutely the bottleneck. I was micromanaging. I was not letting go to the point that I really just I don't care what happens to it. I'm moving 2,500 miles away.
Right.
Right. Yeah. And the business actually got better when I did because I was forced to let go of being the guy in the tights and cape, even though I don't love that image. I was forced to not be that person.
Yeah.
And to run my business effectively.
Yeah.
And it became worth more and actually saleable at the end. So I'm sure you see that in your clients as well, that they're contacting you is this one of the reasons they're contacting you, whether they know it or not?
Yeah, for sure. I think many people we all do. We all have blind spots. And many times people that find early success in their businesses, it's because they're extraordinarily competent, extraordinarily intelligent and capable. And so they ride those attributes to their success. But as we start to scale, we have to lean and build a team around us that are extraordinary. And so I think, I see this over and over again. I'm going to go off on a little bit of a tangent, so I apologize. But we start to look at the hiring pool and say, I'm not getting the right people. They don't have the capacity. They don't have the desire, this generation over and over again. And to me, that's a little bit problematic. I think it means we're looking at potential people for our organization in the wrong light. And I think it's because we're looking at it in a one direction. What can they do for us? So I think we've got to flip the script and say, okay, it's a bi-directional relationship that we're creating. What can they do for me, but what can I do for them? And so when I'm looking at somebody as a candidate for my businesses now, I want to make sure that they have extraordinary capacity and not in performance, but I want to see a greater and a better version of them and see what can we accomplish together? Because I think mentorship was always percolating in the back of my head as something that's extraordinarily valuable and underserved, maybe overspoken about, but underserved in our society. And so finding this idea is, how do I help an individual see a better version of themselves for tomorrow and accomplish something they may have never thought that they could? I had a professor in college I was an education major, and he told me this. He'd been a teacher for decades. And he says, teaching honor students is easy. They're going to be successful in spite of you. Teaching special needs is a calling and something that is deeply rewarding, but will take an extraordinary amount of energy and desire to do. And you'll have small victories. But taking an average student, somebody who is, CB, maybe sometimes an A, and helping them achieve extraordinary results is really the heart of educating, teaching, and mentoring the people around you. And so I've taken that idea and said, now, how do we do that in the business world? How do we take and pour into this idea of, removing myself as the bottleneck in my business, finding people, they can just be normal people, but helping them see a better vision of themselves so that we can go out together and accomplish extraordinary things. And so that's, I think, one of the benefits of stepping away from being a bottleneck. One of the needs for us as owners in their businesses to step away from being a bottleneck, to not just get out of the way of the success of others, but really help them and nurture them to be the very best so that we can celebrate their successes even in our business. And help them find just the true beautiful joy of accomplishment. So.
Well, it's a great point, and there's so much there. I mean, part of it certainly changing the whole idea of, okay, you work for me, as opposed to we're working together, and where do you want to go?
Right.
And how can I help you get there, and we'll go together. That's a whole different mindset.
Yes.
And then the other piece I appreciate that you shared is that, and I recently became more aware of this with my kids, that if I do everything for them, they don't get the benefit of being able to succeed.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing can apply with team members, that giving them the opportunity to be the person. We need to come up with something different than the tights and the cape, I think. But,
well, it's a superhero imagery, right? So you want to come in and save the day.
Right.
That's why. Yeah.
Giving them the opportunity to be able to come in and save the day and share that.
Yeah.
What a gift.
Yeah.
As long as they don't get stuck in it.
That's right.
I've certainly seen in my organizations that there are times that, okay, I step away enough, and then I've replaced myself with somebody else who becomes the bottleneck.
So what's the key indicator for you when you see that? What tells you, like, okay, we're in a problem state now?
It's funny you'd ask that. I mean, for me, which is kind of my tendency of thinking, it's what happens if that person's not around? What if they get sick? They can't come to work? What if they pass away? What if they find another opportunity somewhere else?
Yeah.
The pain that I would likely feel, right, if that were to occur, is what helps me to focus on, okay, we need to diversify a little bit here. We need to share the knowledge, that kind of thing. So there's no bottleneck. Have
you found it difficult? It's almost like wresting control away from that person again. Have you found it difficult to help them see that blind spot?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What I've noticed is that they even though they may not be the business owner, they are skilled and treat it like an owner, which I so greatly appreciate.
Yeah.
But then there becomes the challenge of letting them let go of that dopamine hit and the feeling of being successful every day because everybody needs them and they're the only one that knows the answer and all of those things.
For sure.
It can be very challenging.
Yeah. Have you had any negative occurrences, like when you've tried to take it away and then they've thrown up their hands and said, I can't do it anymore?
I can't think of one where they threw up their hands and said they couldn't do it, but I have had the experience of it being like, trying to pull candy from a baby or something. It's just
lots of tears.
They don't want to let go.
Yeah. For sure.
And the people are all good intentioned and it's highly skilled. It just becomes a matter of team building as opposed to obtaining results, right? And this is where I think, since you've asked, it's more like, is it a sprint or is it a marathon?
Yeah.
If it's a marathon and we've got somebody else we can hand the baton to, we can go way further than I might be able to on my own, or somebody else who's super skilled might be able to. So it's just, I think that's probably part of the mindset.
Yeah, sure.
And when somebody needs to kick in and get something done, the rock star is a great person to have, or the person with the cape. And we need to teach other people how to do it.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
That succession, that legacy, we need to create and make sure that that's maintained. And again, I think as an owner, that's one of the things we want to really facilitate. Right? We want to create this self-perpetuating culture of growth and development, so it doesn't require us. I tell every leader that's stepping into the any role within an organization is one of your greatest tasks is to build your replacement. Because if you can do that, you're ready for that next phase.
And that's tough.
That is tough.
Isn't it? I mean, even when I hear it, and I've heard it before, I don't like it, right? To make yourself dispensable or make yourself irrelevant.
Right.
Ow.
Yeah.
Right. So where do I fit into an organization? And so as you're working with business leaders and you're helping them get there, what do you replace that with? I mean, if truly they can become irrelevant, what do they do? What's their purpose?
Yeah. Doing it again.
Doing it again.
And creating because I think when we start to find individuals or help grow individuals that can replace themselves, that requires an extraordinary amount of effort or understanding of personalities and people, capacity and accountability and delegation skills. And so all of that wrapped up. And if I can teach somebody to do it, to build another, then we can scale the business. Now we can go out and grow successfully. We can acquire more clientele. We can increase volume of sales, whatever it is, we can really start to expand our business because we've got this repetitive growth model internally that's going to afford us the opportunity to successfully serve our clients on the tail end. And so to me, it's this idea of, it's like an accordion or a slinky. You can start to stretch it out as we can train our replacements. And that's what I tell both my clients and the people in my organization. It's like, listen, if you can do this, then the sky's the limits.
Yeah. Well, I've certainly found as I've been effective at various times in my life in doing what you're describing, my team is stronger.
Oh, yeah.
And I actually enjoy it better. Everybody's happier when they all feel the feeling of success and accomplishment in the areas they serve. And it brings us all together to do more.
Yeah.
And that's exciting. And I need to constantly monitor myself that I don't slip back into, okay, I got this, I got that, I can do this, I can do that. And so let me ask you real concretely. So when you're working with a business owner, what are some of the small steps that they can start to take to open the neck of that bottle where they are not the bottleneck to growth and operations and success?
Yeah. Great question. A couple things that we start with, or that I like to start with, is asking an owner, who have they tapped in their organization as their replacement? That is, just as you alluded to earlier, it's a little heart-stopping. It's like, well, nobody. Nobody can be me. And so really starting to put, and I can't stress this enough, putting pen to paper matters. I think the statistic I read recently was that you are 3 times more likely to remember something you've written down with a pen and paper than you are to either type it or just to say it. And so, and I think it gives us a couple things. It gives us a little bit more commitment when we put it to paper, that there's a reality to it that doesn't exist when we're just verbalizing it. And so asking an owner to come in and write down who do they see as their successor is a great way to start. Because then we can start to say, why? What is that? Where do you see the value in them? What challenges do they face? And it doesn't have to be for tomorrow or the next day, but is it a year, 2, 5 years down the road? And if we don't have somebody, then why not? And we can start to explore that. Now, skill sets for an owner or a leader that is trying to extricate themselves from just being in the business is we have to look at the skill sets of delegation and accountability. There's this concept that I've been toying with for years now, and it's this idea of leader versus manager, because there's generally a consensus that you want to be a leader, you don't want to be a manager, and it goes back to this idea of micromanagement. And I would argue that to be a really good leader, you have to have management skill sets, and it goes back to delegating and accountability, right? That's a component of leadership, but it requires you to dot your I's, cross your T's, to have a set of KPIs or scorecards that you're going to be evaluating and vetting the success or efficacy of their operations. So you've got to be able to manage. And in that, it's how do you delegate your responsibilities, and then how do you hold people accountable to it? Now, delegation is hard because what generally happens is, well, I told you once, and you're an adult, you should know and listen and get it done. But you didn't get it done to my expectation in a timely manner or to the quality that I was expecting. And so we have to reflect and say delegation is a skill set that we need to practice and get better at.
That's great.
But what do I delegate?
Right.
Right? That's the next question that we've got to deal with. What do I delegate? Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something. So taking and reflecting is what is truly dependent upon me as an owner or a leader in the organization. And that's where I think having a second set of eyes and ears to talk through it and ask the hard question of, is it really? Is that really dependent upon you? Because it goes back to our egos. Well, yeah, it is. Sales is definitely dependent upon me, but it's not. Right now, forecasting or setting, I guess it depends on the business that you're engaged with, but there are certain responsibilities that an owner has that nobody else can. It's not everything.
Well, and especially if the owners started to release their grip, right? So there are times that I find when I'm overwhelmed with way more than I'm going to be able to accomplish, I force myself to ask the question, who else in my organization can help with this?
Yeah.
And it's amazing to me, and this isn't a credit to me. It's amazing to me how when I'm willing to ask that question, I go, well, yeah, that one.
Yeah.
I mean, I can delegate all kinds of things. So why do I keep hoarding it? Is it because I want that feeling of the cape, or is it what's behind it? But I have to remind myself over and over, all right, who else can do this and get it done? Because otherwise I keep kicking it down the road and piling more stuff on, and it just becomes ineffective. It's just that simple and stressful and everything else that comes along with it that's not beneficial.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think you made a great point of why do I keep doing it? I think because mostly it's we find a sense of success when I have an accomplishment. I can say, here's the report, and I turn it in. And the higher up an organization we go, the less of those deliverables we have. And so it's this really ethereal kind of, non-quantifiable day that I live because I don't have anything to put back on the table and say, this is what I accomplished. Look how great I am.
that's very interesting.
So we hold on tight to those things when we shouldn't.
Yeah. So as an effective leader, there is a whole psychology shift that comes with being the leader as the role and the obligation, as opposed to checking 100 things off the list in a day.
That's right.
Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yeah. List checkers. I do it myself. I love it.
Is there a club?
Yeah, there is. Yeah. That little tattoo. And, it's great. But it makes you feel accomplished. You're like, I'm just checking it off my list. I'm done. And by the end of the day, I've done 20 things and it's great.
Oh, man.
But you're stuck.
Yeah.
So I love dating myself. When I was growing up, and it was kind of the tail end. You ever hear of the vaudeville shows?
No, never. No, just kidding.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Yes. I'm the oldest person in the room now. But they would bring up these different performers on stage, and they would do it, magic and singing and jokes and all that. But remember, it was really, they had either the basketball spinning on the sticks or the plates. And so I call it the plate spinners. You get 15 plates all spinning on a different stick. Your job is to make sure the plates keep spinning. And so when you get to the 15th one, you got to run back to the first one and engage with it. And then the second one, the third one, all the way back again. So the role is really to address and engage with each plate as the leader, as an owner of a business. So you're not producing anything, but you're making sure things are happening and making it easier for those things to happen. I think, we use the idea of servant leadership from the start of your role as new manager all the way up to ownership. But what's the heart of it? And it's really about empowering others to be the very best versions of themselves within the context of your organization to accomplish extraordinary results.
That's excellent.
Get out of the way, help them be the best they can, and go conquer the world. It's great.
Oh, that's excellent. Well, and one of the pieces you touched on, which is something I'm a firm believer in and very focused on right at the moment, is accountability. And for me personally, I can hold myself accountable in certain areas, but there's nobody that helps me hold myself accountable any better than a coach.
Yeah, that's right.
And in your world, that's a consultant, right?
Yep.
So I think of, if you were to ask me to sit down and write what my vision is of how I can exit my business in 5 years, I would never do it. If you're waiting for me to do it, I'll do it.
Right.
That's all right.
That's exactly
And even
right.
better, if I paid you to wait for me to do it,
Yeah.
I'm absolutely going to do it.
Yeah, that's right.
And so there's this fine line of I think probably your clients and certainly the people I work with, having enough initiative for the outcome that they want to be willing to put in a system that holds them accountable, or a person or a coach or a consultant or whatever it is, to just do the things that work.
Yeah.
As opposed to what we're used to and comfortable with.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
We have these moments of motivation, right? We get really excited. I heard this great theory. I read this great book. Or I listened to this great podcast. And maybe I do it for a week or two. And we forget that motivation has a finite time frame in our systems. We can't stay motivated for a long duration. Our body can't express the hormones and function in that way for any great duration. And so we've got to supplant it with discipline.
Wow.
And that's where accountability comes in, right? So, and it's difficult. Discipline is one of the most difficult things to hold on to when you're inexperienced with it. So I agree with you. Having somebody to walk with you, and at least initially, this idea of accountability to the expectations that you're setting for yourself is really valuable as you gain in your ability to be disciplined in your practices. All right. And the only way to get better at discipline is to be disciplined, right? The only way to get better at doing hard things is to do hard things. That's the challenge with it, is that we've got to do the very thing that we're not good at yet to get better at it. And that's where coaching helps out. And I'm not trying to do this as a sales pitch, because I really do think that coaching is invaluable in any position that we're in, to any role that we're doing. And it's one of the reasons I love sports metaphors, because I think it highlights some of these really practical things for us as business owners. The best players in the world have coaches, and not just one coach. They've got many coaches for different facets of what they're trying to execute on the field. And gosh, come on. They're the very best at what they do.
That's right.
I'm not the very best at what I do. I like to think I'm good at it, but I can always get better. But coaches help, right? Having that perspective, having that guidance, having that, both that 10,000 foot view and that granular view of where I'm at, what I'm doing, and how I'm getting there. I mean, it's invaluable. So
well, and I appreciate your being sensitive, because you're a coach, right?
Yeah.
And as am I. And the reality is, in my life, I learned a long, long time ago, if I want to excel at something, I have a coach.
Yeah.
And just because I know how my mind works, that coach, even if they're not phenomenal at coaching, the accountability will help me get where I want to go.
Yeah.
So personally, I'll just share, and then I want to hear what you have. I personally, if I'm looking to achieve something and be good at it, I have a coach. If I find myself in crisis, I might have several.
Yeah.
I mean, it just serves me. It's worked. And just like you said, I mean, Olympic athlete, I mean, how many coaches do they have for various areas of their life? So
knowing a little bit about your background, but I don't need to go there, but when was it that you decided, what was the first time that you decided that I needed a coach? How long into your career?
Well, honestly, I mean, I can tell you, and it's for me, it started when I was 17, 18. I mean, I had grown up in a home. It was just horrible. I mean, everything you could imagine was part of my reality at the time. Yeah. And the turning point for me was when I looked around and said, if I keep doing what is around me, I know where I will end up. It's very simple, right? Even at that age for me, it was very simple to figure out. I do not want that result. And so I looked outside for anybody that could guide me. And for me, that was personal development at the time. I mean, it was a financially obtainable way for me to get coaching that wasn't personal, but was seriously influential for me. And I've never stopped. Yeah. If anything, I've amplified it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Because it worked.
That's right.
It took me from a life that I did not want to a life that I enjoy and appreciate and am grateful for. Yeah. So it started for me very, very young, and I'm so grateful.
Yeah. Yeah. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. That's cool.
Yeah. Thank you. So when you're working with a client, how do you help them let go? Is it baby steps? Is it very specific tasks?
Yeah. It's always baby steps.
Okay.
Right? We start there. There's a coach. My son was a gymnast for a number of years, and so we got into the gymnastics world. Coach Sommers used to be the men's national team junior coach. And so he's got a program going on, but he talked about this, a great story, said some of the best gymnasts in the world start when they're 3 or 4 years old, and all they do is hop.
No kidding.
They hop. And the idea is that we're building an infrastructure that's going to be when they're 16, 17, 20 years old, that they've got such a strong basis when they started at 4 that they're going to achieve extraordinary global results, a decade and a half later. And so having this clear plan for 15, 20 years, to me, starts with a very simple, repetitive movements so that we can get into the complex and extraordinary later on. And whatever that scale or stretch of time is irrelevant. So, but to answer your question, when I go into with a client, we assess where they're at, what their ability to enact discipline is, how effective they've been, and then what type of simple, easily repeatable steps do we start with to gain this momentum immediately and then foundationally moving forward.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
I know it's a broad statement, but
but I like it. And I think so many of us, especially overachievers, want something that like just give it to me and I'll,
Yeah.
But the reality is the easier it is to swallow, the more likely we are to continue to drink it.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah, great way to put it. Yep.
Yeah. And so your method of finding out where they are, like assess current level, and then determining the steps that are appropriate to help get there.
Yeah.
It's great. And I'm always amazed at how if you just take a 5-degree turn every day, where you are in a month is way different than if you wait and try to make a U-turn.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, it's another great way to put it. We undervalue the small, repeatable behaviors and the consistency behind it. But again, you can, like you said, if it's 5 degrees at a time, I mean, you're in just a couple of days, you're way in a different direction than you were when you started. And it takes a lot less energy.
It really does, doesn't it?
So with owners or clients that I'm working with, when we're talking about delegation, it's one of the simple things, something that they don't have a great sense of ownership with. I don't want to tackle what they're most married to and what most defines their character and personality. I want to take something that is arguably easy to hand off. They just haven't done it yet because nobody's held them accountable to it. And it only takes a couple minutes every day.
That's
so
excellent.
We start small and make sure that we're handing it off, but not in absentia, right? Because that's the scale is, well, if I've handed it off, I've told you and I'm done with it, I'm never coming back, right? I just expect it to be done. And then 6 months go by and you're like, what do you mean you didn't do it? And so teaching them that they've got to hold people accountable, they've got to then be the coach for the person they've delegated to. They've got to reinforce that idea of importance and discipline. And so they're learning and teaching in the same aspect. And so we're getting both sides of their capacity.
That's great. Well, I want to go back to something you said about discipline. And I have a sense that there's way more there. And I think there are some people that consider themselves to be very disciplined and they can get the objective they want. And there are others that I know of that struggle enormously with just it's boring or it's whatever. It's not sexy. It doesn't.
For sure.
So can you dive into that with us and unpack that a little bit? What is the trick with discipline, and especially if it's not something that comes naturally or is practiced? Yeah.
That's a lot of questions. We got another hour, right. Another 6 hours. Again, I think it's starting small. And what we want to do is reflect. We want to reflect on the steps that get us where we're going and never forget that. I may have said this last time, but my kids went to a school in Arizona called Basis, and Basis has a very rigid academic structure. Some may say it's punitive because there's so much restriction, so much boundary, and there's so much expectation. But my kids really flourished in that because of the discipline that was provided. And what it is building upon yesterday's performance today with expectation of tomorrow. And their math system I iconified it. Every day they would do a new lesson, and it was always building off the prior lesson. 80 days in, you're 80 lessons in. They had 30 problems every day, and those 30 problems would include lessons all the way back to number 1.
Wow.
And so what we saw was this cycle of repetition. Every day is something new. Every day is something old. And we're reinforcing it over and over again. And so going back to how we unpack it, same thing as we're building discipline within with an individual or an organization, is that we get these loops, these feedback loops. We reflect on what we've initiated, where we're at, where we're going, and we keep talking about that. And again, part of it is having somebody outside of the system that will hold accountable, bring to light the success of repetition and the value of it, really have a scoreboard saying, we said this, we've done this, and this is how we've measured the success, and so we can celebrate it, and then start that cycle over again until they're doing it themselves, right, within the organization. And I know it's kind of a loose description of it, but that's, again, we want to repeat, acknowledge, celebrate.
Well, and the acknowledge part speaks to me as well. I just was our family decided to take up snowboarding, and our 19-year-old's great at it, but the rest of us, I mean, I've been skiing for 50 years, but just started snowboarding, starting with a coach, right? And all the things that,
That's
and
right.
we're having fun doing it. But one of the things that I saw was my youngest was having a tough time. And he would get, he'd fall and then he'd get upset, and I could see that he was all worked up, and then he'd try it again. And guess what happened? He fell again.
Yeah.
And I had a conversation with him about, listen, we need to stack wins. And where I'm going with this is with discipline in myself. If I'm beating myself up and looking for failure all the time, I'm not going to do it anymore.
Yeah, that's right.
And I found that I can be more disciplined in the things I want to pursue if I acknowledge my wins and I stack them. And I just, they don't need to be huge. Just, can I come up with anything that I did? Well, I made it 7 feet on the snowboard. Okay, well, that's a win, right? Because yesterday you're at 2 feet.
Yeah, that's
or
right.
whatever it might be.
Yep.
But I appreciate in your formula using the term acknowledge, because acknowledging where you were and where you've come to, I think that feeds our psyche to want to succeed.
Yes.
And then maybe we're willing to do it again, as opposed to just, I'm done with the whole thing.
Yeah. A lot to unpack there. I agree 100%. I think the value of acknowledging and celebrating successes is tremendous. We as humans, and really we're simple in nature, we love finding success. And acknowledgement, reward, I mean, that's how we learn. Discipline, to me, is never a teaching moment. And so pain or punishment is never a way to teach a lesson for future performance or adherence. Success is. Let's celebrate it. You did it right? Great.
Yeah, that's amazing.
If we struggled, 2 things. One, we should expect us to struggle, especially as we're learning something new. It's not just allowing for it, but it is saying it's going to happen. It's not a question of if, it's just when. And then when we see that happen, it's not you did bad. You didn't do this new behavior 2 days in a row. Here's a spanking. It's, when you get back on, my expectation is that on day 3, you do it the right way. And hey, great job doing it the right way on day 3. Let's try it on day 4. Couple things there, right? So we're not punishing when we mess up. We're celebrating when we find the success. The engagement, though, needs to be consistent and constant. So whoever is holding that person accountable, whether it be a coach or somebody else in the organization, you need to be, especially as you're starting off, and it goes back to this concept of micromanaging as a tool of teaching, you have to be there in the immediacy of it. Because if you're 2 weeks in and finally realize that the person's not doing the task, or that they've been failing at it for 2 weeks in a row, it's too late. And there's no opportunity to recover that in a short term. It's going to be we're extending out the time frame over and over again because we've just taught avoidance, not participation.
Oh, that's very good. So. Well, and as we bring this full circle back to Bottleneck, I mean, what I've seen why a lot of business owners don't let go is because of all the things that we just described, afraid it won't be done right, or lose customers, or so on and so forth. And so through the discipline and through the coaching and consulting and all, and being held accountable, there is a way to do it that is safe and it works. And it is so worth it on the other side. I mean, that's the benefit, just taking the first step with all those tools in place.
Yeah, I heard this a few years back, and since then I've heard it more, but the idea is just because it's simple doesn't mean that it's easy. And it is a simple concept. It's not rocket science. It's not brain surgery. These mechanisms work if you buy into it, you follow through, and you tie it to the right expectation in the plan. But it's not easy.
Right. Well, inconsistency is the big part, right?
Yeah,
just
for
being willing to do it consistently.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as you know, and as I've had repeat guests, this whole idea of me asking my guests, can you share with us an example of somebody who's given you a hand up, or were you? Yeah. The reason that's so important to me is because it's about gratitude for me, right? I never want to lose sight of the people who have helped me get where I wanted to go in any area of life. But I also have, I appreciate that for some, that the conversation gets old. And so I've added a twist to that. Yeah. Where
this is the part of the conversation I've been dreading, Matt. The whole thing. I was driving over like, oh man, I hope he just forgets this question.
Yeah, well, it's funny. It may be that I do at some point, but it's the other way I've put a twist on it for folks that have been with me before is, who have you helped have a hand up? And so I'm going to leave it entirely up to your discretion. But I do appreciate finishing my podcast episodes with gratitude, whether it's for something you were able to give to somebody else or somebody who gave to you. And so if you wouldn't mind digging deep, I'll be your coach for a second and help you try to find a place of gratitude.
It's such a humbling experience to be a coach, because you're being invited into some of the most important, joyful, difficult, challenging times in people's lives and of their life. So I was thinking about this. It is so counter for me to come back and say, hey, this is exactly where I did great. I don't like doing it. So I struggle. And so I came up, this happened fairly recently, and I'll use his name. I'm just going to lay a little bit of context. A longstanding client of mine, and again, humbling experience for me, and maybe not quite in line with answering what you're asking of me. But I worked with, his name is Jason, and he's been a senior executive at his organization for a long time, and I've worked with him for years. He told me something it was a few months back, but it really just made me so grateful and so humbled by this, because when I do, and I've mentioned a little bit in our talk already, but I love helping somebody see a better version of themselves than they envision. And I've worked with Jason for a super long time, and he'll probably kill me for saying all this. He mentioned the other day, Dana, I didn't know where you were going with what you were telling me, but I finally see what you see in me. And I'm mangling the words up. He didn't say it that way, but that's what, he finally saw what I saw in him, and the potential and the value and the capacity that I've been hoping that he bought into for years. It seemed like it finally dawned, and he acknowledged that. And I just get chills talking about it, because that's what I love. And it was so humbling to hear from him that he sees the best version of himself in the way that I see the best version of him. And that to me it was so special.
Oh, what an amazing gift that you gave to him. And then he was able to reflect back. Yeah. So, well, I appreciate you diving deep into that, and it's
hardest question ever.
Well, it's I know in my life I aspire to give back to others in a way that I've been given to. I'm just so grateful for it, and so it's not always easy, but it's a.
May I ask you a question?
Sure. For some reason, is it going to hurt?
Well, it might. And maybe this has been asked of you before, but as you put that question together, what circumstance in your life and your coaching and your business made you think about that?
About the giving back, or just who's given a hand up?
Who you've given a hand up to.
I think because, you asked the question about where I had experienced this in the past. Yeah. And again, I was at a rock bottom at 17 years old, just like, is this even worth living anymore, this life? And so the inspiration that came to me from others is something that moves me to no end. It's a matter of fact, it's the whole reason that I have Amp Success in this whole podcast, is the desire to try to give back in a way that's meaningful to others, just like I was given to. Yeah. And so, the turning point in this question became, I've had a couple of people on a couple of times, and it, the question can become rote. And that's why I decided to turn it back around, because I just believe and want to believe and know that the people we help is also where there's huge, huge value. And so I think it's just ideally it's a full circle. Yeah. And maybe me being annoying and forcing people on camera to answer the question. Honestly, it's just at the end of the day, to me, it's what it's all about.
Yeah,
the people that have joined us on our journey is what is so inspiring to me. And I don't want to lose sight of it ever.
Yeah.
So,
Well said.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Well, thank you again for joining us.
It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, it's such an important topic. And for those of you in the audience, I hope this concept of bottleneck, it can seem, I know because I've been there, it can seem so overwhelming, but it does not need to be. And the joy that you can find in your business or in your life, if there's any area where you're a bottleneck, once you start to alleviate that and dilute that a little bit is simply just life altering. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one. And that's a wrap on today's episode. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and got some valuable insights into the world of buying and selling businesses. Want to be a guest on our show? If you have a deal that you'd like to discuss with us or a business story to share, we'd love to hear from you. Shoot us an email using the contact information below in the episode notes, and let's make this happen. Never miss an episode. Make sure you subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. And if you found today's episode helpful, please leave us a review. It helps more people like you find the show.